Food is a big deal in the American culture. If I were to ask you to think about your average day of eating, you would probably think about it in one of two ways. You would either say you eat lunch and dinner and skip breakfast, or you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Most people usually tend to follow this 2 or 3 meals a day plan, but what if we only ate one meal a day? I believe that in our society, it's common for people to overstuff themselves with food in either one meal or just throughout the day in general. It's common for people to go out to restaurants and eat a big dinner, or at least for my parents, it's common to hear when back at home, "Did you get enough? Is that enough to fill you up? Are you still hungry after that?" Questions like these lead people to usually eat a lot of food, and it got me thinking about if we really need this much food. A few months ago, back during the middle of this COVID pandemic and during lockdown, I, as I'm sure a lot of other people, gained a decent amount of weight. And with the frustration that comes with gaining weight, I tried to think of a way to lose the weight fast. And even though it may not have been the most healthy way of doing it, I turned to fasting. And I figured I just wanted to try it out. I did about a 3-day fast, even though my goal was 5 days. And I learned a lot about my body and food in general. And I learned that we don't really need as much food as we put into our body. So, for the past month, I set myself the goal of only eating one meal a day. When you think one meal a day, you probably think eating about a third of the food that you usually would, cutting out breakfast and cutting out dinner, and that's it. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that I did this in the most healthy way as possible and try to get as much nutrients as I could in the one meal without feeling like I was completely stuffing myself. I went into this with a couple of goals, the primary one being losing weight, and the secondary goals were seeing if I could do this in the most healthy way as possible and seeing if this could kind of reset my hunger and cravings, and I'll talk about those more later. So I started this out on the same day that I actually finished my last video, running for 30 days, and I ate my first meal at about noon on the first day. And that's about a usual time that some people eat lunch. Even though I started off this first day eating at about noon, I didn't want to get stuck into eating at the same time every day. I didn't want to set myself a strict time limit of when I had to eat. I just wanted to allow my body to tell myself when I needed to eat. So like this first day when I ate at noon, it's because I was hungry. And on some days I ended up eating at 4 or 5 just because that's when I got hungry. So I didn't want to really set myself too strict of a time limit. I just wanted to listen to my body for when it was time to eat. I also wanted to see if the amount of food that I could tolerate at once could go up, or if the amount of food that I needed throughout the whole day would go down. I kind of had to sit back and put my hand on my gut, and it was just a lot of food to take in at once, and I wanted to see if this experience would change throughout the 30 days. And then lastly, I wanted to track the food that I was eating so that I could get an idea of exactly what I was eating, how many calories I was getting, and if it was enough for me and what I needed. So a few days before I started this, I was kind of brainstorming what I wanted to eat, and I kind of had the idea that I would eat about the same thing every day, and I decided to eat a 1-pound chicken breast, 1 cup of brown rice, about 1.5 cups of mixed frozen vegetables, a protein bar, and a protein shake. And all of this came out to about 970 calories, and it gave me 140 grams of protein, 63 carbs, 19 fats, and 23 grams of fiber. Even though this was a lot of food, it didn't get me throughout the first day because, well, it's the first day, and anything that has to do with changing how you eat, the first few days are always the hardest. I found that I was very low energy throughout the rest of the day because I couldn't eat dinner, and I also ended up going to my friend's house on the first day, which wasn't really the best idea, and it was really hard to stop myself from eating, and it was really tempting to eat food because he made such good food. But I did not give in. I stuck with my one meal, and it kind of sucked. After about the second day, my hunger kind of went away. In the same experience that I had with fasting, I found that the first 2 days were the hardest, and the third day, I just kind of felt good. The third day was actually one of those days where I went longer than 24 hours without eating. I had eaten on the second day at about 1 o'clock, but on the third day, I didn't eat till like 5 o'clock. So that was a really crazy experience, and I think it's because of the way that my body started using energy. You see, most people's bodies run off carbs because that's constantly what we're giving ourselves throughout the day. So we run off carbs, and it's kind of this short-term energy, but it's a lot of it. The whole idea behind the ketosis diet or intermittent fasting is that we want our body to run off of fat. And that's what happens after the first few days. your body learns I shouldn't be relying on these carbs because I'm not getting too many of them, so I'm going to start using fat as energy. And that's why the third day was kind of like the most energy I had throughout this whole experience. Specifically at the gym, I found that my third day was crazy. On the second day, I was really lethargic and just not really motivated to do anything. I did probably about 3 exercises as compared to the 6 or 7 that I usually do. But on the third day, I found that I was just pushing more weight and I had all the energy in the world and nothing was really stopping me. I felt like I could kind of do anything, and that's because my body had switched over to using fat in a more sustainable fuel source. I also got a lot of help during this first week through the use of electrolyte water. During the time when I'm not eating, I'm obviously drinking water, and I drink a lot of it too. And even though water was really helpful in stopping hunger that may have come later at night, I would always just want the taste of food, and this electrolyte water kind of did the job for me. And it was really helpful in getting me through these nights where I just really wanted any kind of food. I wasn't hungry, I was just craving food. So it was really helpful and a really good crutch for the first about 2 weeks. Speaking of cravings, cravings were one thing that were really difficult. During the beginning of this experience, I found that I was really craving foods and just like I wanted pizza. Pizza is like my ultimate weakness. I wanted to sit down and eat some ice cream or something. But I always just told myself I'll eat my one meal. If I really want something that tastes good, I'll just drink some of that electrolyte stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to stick to this one meal. And over time, that kind of got better. At the beginning of the second week, I was doing a little bit of research and found that I wasn't getting nearly as much food as I needed. Like I said earlier, I was getting about 970 calories in the first iteration of my meals that I was eating. And I learned that I should only be cutting my calories by about 300 or 400 and not by like 1,000 like I was. So I decided to add on a fruit smoothie. For the smoothie, I had a mix of frozen berries, a banana, some milk, some peanut butter, and flaxseed. And this ended up being around 1,600 calories altogether, not just the smoothie itself. But it also got me the necessary fats that I needed because I wasn't getting enough fat. And it just kind of helped top off the meal with something that was really naturally sugary and just tasted really good. I was also finding that my stomach could handle more food. Even though my first meal was like 970 calories, it was a lot of like dense food with not that much calories. And I found that I just felt really bloated and sluggish after I would eat. But come around this time, I felt that I kind of felt normal after eating all of that food. Even though it's a lot of food, my stomach was kind of getting used to it, and my body was adapting to taking in all of that at once and being able to handle it instead of feeling like I needed to lay back on the couch and sit there for the next hour because I was too bloated and full to do anything. At about the 15-day point at the start of the third week, I ended up taking a spontaneous road trip up to Michigan with my friend, and we left at about 5 a.m., and I was really hungry in the morning, and this led to me just saying fuck it with the whole one meal a day thing. I ended up eating a small little snack in the morning. We stopped at Dunkin' Donuts, and I just had to give in and get myself a donut. So I got myself a donut in the morning, and then while we were in Michigan, we stopped at a restaurant, and I had myself some lunch. And even though I didn't necessarily stick to the whole one meal thing, I found that I wasn't really hungry after that lunch because I was used to not really eating dinner. And I felt like I really only ate breakfast because I was up so early compared to when I usually get up, which was about 8:30. I was up at 5 a.m. instead, and I just really wanted food. I also learned that this really strict one meal a day plan isn't really the most realistic diet. It's really nice for someone that doesn't go out too much or doesn't really have too many plans. And if you're at home all day, like during quarantine, it's easy to stick with one meal a day because you don't have friends that want you to come over to their house, or you don't have people coming over for dinner or something. But if you're in an occasion like that, it really sucks to turn down food that someone else has made for you just because you've already eaten your meal for the day. I did find though that the day after this, it wasn't that hard for me to get back into the one meal a day plan. Back during the first week, there actually was a time where I didn't really eat the best and I gave in, and I think I bought myself a pizza or something. And the next day I did have some really bad cravings. But this time around, after eating out essentially the whole day, The next day, it was really easy to just go back to eating my normal food, and I didn't really feel like I had that strong of cravings. It was also around this time that I made another iteration onto my meal, and I switched over to eating Beyond Burgers. If you don't know what this is, it's essentially just like fake meat in the form of a burger, kind of like Burger King's Impossible Burger, but like a different brand. The school that I go to offers them, and I found that I really enjoy them, so I went out and started buying those instead because they were a lot faster to cook than a whole chicken breast. Following the same theme as the last video, the last week was a little rough. I felt like it was easier to try to convince myself to eat more than I should have. And there was one time I was over at my friend's house real late at night, and I did end up eating 2 slices of pizza or so. So there were times that I would slip up throughout this process, but I did try my best to really stick to eating the 1 meal a day. But again, I think it's just kind of the fatigue of knowing that I'm close to being done with the 30 days. I think if I don't have a time limit on myself and I just tell myself, hey, eat 1 meal a day and you can kind of eat snacks at night or like at a friend's house, it's a lot easier and it's a lot less guilt on my mind when I do this kind of thing. I also found that the cravings were a lot less intense. During this last week, even though I still kind of got that desire for food at night, even though I wasn't hungry, or I still every now and then wanted maybe like a bag of candy or something, it was a lot less common, and every time I did get those cravings, they were a lot less intense, a lot easier for me to kind of push it away and just be like, no, I'm not going to go do that. I'll just stick to this 1 meal thing. I'm almost done with this anyways. And unlike the running video, I did find that I really was enjoying eating 1 meal a day. Even though I knew I was coming to the end and could kind of loosen up on my restrictions, I don't really think that I want to go back to eating the 3 meals a day or even just eating 2 meals a day. I'll probably stick to 1 meal a day, just looser restrictions. So when it's all said and done, none of this matters unless we look at the goals that I set for myself. And first of all, losing weight. Did I lose weight? And I mean, obviously I did. I ate 1 meal a day. But I started this 1 month challenge at 170.8 and ended up at 163.4, which is actually a good amount of weight to lose during 30 days, almost 10 pounds. And as you can see, my scale shows other stuff, even though it may not be the most accurate thing in the world. It is a good comparison to see that my body fat, which is the number in the top right corner, did go down a decent amount too. And I did end up taking these before and after pictures to show just exactly what it looks like with all that body fat that I did lose. Also, looking back at the goal of trying to be as healthy as I could while eating 1 meal a day, I think I did do a good job of eating the best food that I could and getting the most out of the food that I was eating instead of like buying Taco Bell or McDonald's or something every day. I really made sure that I would get all the proper nutrients, and I wasn't really skipping out on any necessary food that I needed to get during this process. So I was really proud of myself for doing that. And then lastly, resetting my hunger and cravings. I would say that my hunger was reset. Like, I don't really get too hungry in the morning or at night. It's usually just kind of in the middle of the day since that's what my body's used to now. But my cravings, they're still there. They're less intense, but it's not like they've gone away at all. So this whole 1 meal a day thing didn't really have too much of an effect on it. I've heard from other people while doing research that it did kind of reset their cravings, but for me personally, it's not really something that happened. Overall, again, I do want to say I really enjoyed this, and I think it is something that I will continue doing after these 30 days are up. I mean, it's already been 3 or 4 days, and I'm still mainly eating 1 meal with maybe a protein bar is thrown somewhere throughout the day or something like that. And it makes me really realize that we as a society just kind of put more food into our bodies than we really need to. So I would really recommend doing this even if you're just curious about it. If you don't need to lose weight, if you're just curious about what it would be like eating only 1 meal a day, I would recommend it. But I do have a couple recommendations to try to make it the best experience that it can be. First of all, don't starve yourself if you're doing this for losing weight. While yes, eating dramatically less than you were before can be very effective, I saw firsthand experience during the first week that I did lose a decent amount of weight during just the first 7 days. It's not necessarily healthy, and you do plateau doing that, and that can lead you to getting frustrated that you're not losing more weight, and then maybe you take even more food away. And at that point, you're just not getting enough food. You may end up being malnourished. So I do recommend that if you do this, try as much as you can to get about 300 or 400 calories less than what you would get in a normal day. Even though it's a lot to eat during 1 meal, the smoothies really can help. Also, I would say eat when your body wants to eat. Don't force yourself to eat precisely at 2 o'clock every day. Or don't say to yourself, well, it's only noon and I'm really hungry, but I usually eat at 3, so I'll just push it off. Just eat whenever your body tells you it's hungry. It's the best way to do it, and even if you eat earlier in the day, you'll probably still get through the rest of the day just fine. And once again, to reiterate, don't get into that mindset of, oh, I can eat whatever I want. There are YouTube videos out there that while I was researching this, they were like, oh, you can eat a cheeseburger and some fries if you want to, or you can go out and get fast food if you want. And that's the beauty of eating one meal a day because you're gonna lose weight anyways. And that's just not really the best mindset to have. You don't want to eat all this crap food because then you won't feel good. You just physically won't feel good because your body won't be happy with the food that you're giving it as a source of energy. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, I hope you drop me a like and hit the subscribe button. If you're interested in more videos like this, I put out a video last month where I ran for 30 days. And it was an experience as someone that doesn't particularly like running. And if you want more videos like this, as long as I have an idea, I'll be putting it out every month. So you can expect another one of these in about 30 days time. If you're also interested in gaming stuff, I do some of that stuff on my channel. It's a little slow now, but that's because I'm in school. I'm about to graduate. Once I graduate, I will be putting a lot more time into this. So you can look out for some gaming videos in between these real life videos or anything like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.